Everyone, welcome back to Tuesday Tea with Alicia and my co-host Melissa. We are here today with one of my dear friends that I've known for so many years now. We're not even going to give a number because then we'll feel old. But actually less than Melissa, so there's that. Was one of my very first guests when I first started Tuesday Tea before I really knew it was going to become. But we wanted her back here today to chat more about one of her personal journeys of like adult diagnosis of ADHD and what that's kind of looked like and how she has conceptualized that and figured things out and not figured things out and professionally taken spins on it. So I'm going to let her share all of that in a minute, but let's let her give a little more information about who she is, where she's coming from, who's talking to you today, and we'll get into it. So welcome, Meg.
Well, thank you so much for having me here. I always love a chance to get to chat with both of you anyway, but especially when I get to, I almost said ramble, but it's not ramble. It's very intentional and exciting information for me and to talk about ADHD and especially my work with people who are finding out later in life that they've got it.
No, it's important.
Yeah,
I'm
it is.
really excited to hear about this topic because I feel like at this age in my life, I don't know if it's the hormone changes or if I also feel like I have ADHD. So I can't wait to get into this.
I have so many thoughts on this in so many ways. I was one of the very lucky few people who was diagnosed in elementary school in 1994 in fourth grade. Like, girls don't have ADHD, girls don't have autism, masking, all of these things. But I was just, lucky me and lucky my teachers, I was just so wild and hyper. All A's and a B in conduct, all A's and a B in conduct. It was always so much that finally, and luckily my mom, an educator, was like, let's see what this might be. But that's not the case for so many people, especially people who are women. And I actually, one day, my youngest goes to kindergarten next year, and maybe I'll be able to get into a PhD program and actually study this. But as many people know, ADHD's criteria, one is that it has to have a childhood onset. And if you don't have a mom who can write you a page worth of an email about your experiences and you're a poor historian for yourself, no judgment, that's not a judgment, just like you're ignorant of like what those things were because you were masking and but unintentionally, you may not know that. And so I can't say so much. We know if you've read the book or if anybody has heard of, if not, I encourage you to. Chelsea Conaboy wrote a book called Mother Brain, and it talks about how your actual physical changes in your brain through pregnancy. And so I believe, this is me with my master's degree and not having done any clinical research, but I do genuinely believe, maybe it could be called something different, but that there is something as perinatal onset ADHD or variable attention stimulus trait or whatever we would call that, because so many things are going on, and some of that's environmental. So I want to hold space for that. It like kind of goes against the actual diagnosis, but that there are a lot of people that continue to show up again. Some because girls didn't have ADHD in the 90s, and some because they're like, no, it really wasn't much of a problem for me, and now I can't. Can I cuss on this?
Yeah.
Your one earlier today had a cut. Never mind. I do that. So, but now, like, this really wasn't a problem for me through school, through college, through whatever. And now I can't keep my shit together. What am I supposed to do? And I do genuinely believe that there is something to outside of just the standard typical ADHD before 12 years old diagnosis. Yeah.
That makes sense.
And so it's been really interesting to see so many of these people coming to me. And that's kind of, so I started out in perinatal mental health because I had, I was specializing in my private practice because I was like, this is something that's near and dear to me. I had my fertility struggles, I had pregnancy losses, so I wanted to be able to be the person that I needed when I was going through that. That's what I hear so many times when I talk to people about how they got into their own fields. And then as I was practicing, I was realizing more and more of these conversations. Either, hey, why don't you ask, I mentioned that example specifically. I had a client once and I was like, why don't you ask your mom, like, what were you like in elementary school? And when I say like a laptop screen worth of, oh girl, let me tell you, blah, blah, blah. And I was like,
Oh, wow.
okay, so that's ADHD. Sorry that you didn't get diagnosed with that when you were 9.
Yeah.
And then everywhere in between, like I said, of that, of just, or some people saying that it wasn't a problem, but it really is now, and I can't stay focused, and I can't stay on top, and I keep forgetting things, and I feel chaotic and twirly, and it's too much.
Yeah, I really resonate with what you just said because I've never experienced that. I was always like, I mean, no surprise, right? Like so many women in like our professions are like grow up being like, teacher's pet. We're like we're perfectly designed to sit for like long amounts of time, and just I never experienced any of those things. And then I mean, I guess I've never really unpacked like when it started, but definitely around when I had kids, and I had twins, so I think that probably threw everything into like extra chaos. But yeah, there's just sometimes, I don't know if you all have seen the meme that's like, I started doing dishes and then I decided I needed to water a plant, and so now I'm cooking. And it's like, that is how I feel like my brain is, not all the time, but certainly enough, where I can't turn it off. And it's just, I experience it probably more so. And sometimes I can't tell if it's my anxiety, because I also have anxiety, but so sometimes I can't tell if it's just that manifesting in like a overstimulation type way, or if it is something different.
I'm very excited to have this conversation with you right very much now. First of all, before I jump into where I am going, is that this is this is the subtle art and science of mental health, of like, anxiety can be a symptom of depression, and depression can be a symptom of anxiety. And a lot of times we are able to kind of pick through and say like, oh, it really does feel like it's depression that's being caused by your anxiety. And of course we want to talk about both, but it is helpful for us to understand that. So I wanted to hold space a little bit of that, of like, maybe your anxiety is causing your distractibility, because yeah, who am I to tell you don't have anxiety? But I do want to tell you something that really like fully mind-blowing changed my life after, in my postpartum era, was unmanaged ADHD manifests as anxiety. And it's like, oh, I don't really have anxiety. I'm anxious because of my chaotic and twirly, overwhelmed swirl in which I live makes me feel anxious, which is not an anxiety disorder. I am overwhelmed, stressed. I love it's a Phoebe reference from Friends, chaotic and twirly. And that could be the thing as well, even though that wasn't a thing for you in the past, but that is meeting you now, even though you don't. And this is the big thing too, right? Who fucking cares about a diagnosis? Like, do you have these symptoms right now? What we're working with what's going on. Now, how do I bill insurance for that? Maybe a different question. But the most important thing is the work we're doing on the things that you're experiencing. And girl, let me tell you how many times I have gone out in the backyard to water the garden, and ended up in one of my kids' bedrooms staring at a wall because I can't remember why I went up there, like holding a rake in my hand or something, like. Or like I do that all the time. Or like I've put a spatula, like I went in somewhere with like the spatula that I was gonna cook with, and now that's in the bed because like I went in to like start to make, like, to get a blanket, or you know what I mean? It's like, yes, I literally know what you mean.
I get so annoyed with myself, like,
Yeah.
like, what the fuck? Like, just get your shit together. But
Well,
like,
and Melissa, to go to you specifically again as well, of like, this wasn't an issue for you. And so for some of my clients or people who I talk to who are like, oh, wow, that's always been me. There is that level of like, oh, I see it. And for you, this dramatic swing from like teacher's pet to spatula in bed, it's so hard. That self-talk piece, like self-talk is the core root of executive functioning when we're working on how we're going to navigate this. Because when you're beating yourself up for being a piece of shit, then we're in a whole other level of trying to navigate the function and focus, because my executive functioning isn't working. And what am I doing? Sorry, I'm like so full of fucks today. Why the fuck is this spatula in my bedspread?
totally. Yeah. Yeah, so many thoughts.
Well, I'm curious, what do you think has been most helpful for you, Meg, as someone who even had the language from earlier on, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't still show up maybe in unique ways in different times of life, or like, I'm sure as a single person it was different to manage than a parent and things like that. But what kind of has helped you either accept it, work with it, manage it? Like what are some of what's on the other side? Like, it's one thing to know it, but like, that now what?
Yeah. And I love that question of like, because it is so important to think of like, what are the small things and the small changes that we can start doing. Again, I really encourage everyone to start with the self-talk, like, you're not broken. It's the same as like, I was talking with my mom about whether or not I take my ADHD medication on the weekends, and she was saying, kind of in a very open way, but out of curiosity, because she's not a prescriber, right? she's like, I just don't understand. Like, if you need meds for your mental health, you need meds for your mental health. And I'm like, right, but like, it's not like Lexapro. And again, I want to be so clear, I'm not a prescriber. So like, before anybody jumps in, I'm not a prescriber, but I'm talking about my personal experience here. And like kind of a global thing of like, when people feel it's okay to not take something on the weekend. Like, if you're recognizing that your Lexapro is working and you're like, maybe I should stop, like maybe that's because your Lexapro is working, keep going. That is a thing that needs to ramp up. That's a thing that, like, yeah, once it's in your body, you want to make sure there's consistency on that. Don't pull me off my, patriarchal reformed capitalist soapbox if you need to. You all wave me down. But like, I have to take ADHD medication to sit through an elementary school class because I am being forced to jam myself into a capitalistic, patriarchal, one thing, neurotypical, this is the thing that I need to do, and sitting in class with 24 other kids. That's not necessarily a thing that's a problem for me on the weekend. So that is something of like, I can be a little more loosey-goosey and flowing. When you're an individual, when you're a single, and I am not telling you whether or not, like, not you two. Y'all, I'm not telling you whether or not to give your kids ADHD meds on the weekend. If it works, keep doing it. Talk to your prescribers. But that's what I'm saying is like, I think that's where a lot of that self-talk comes from as well. Like, we don't say crazy because it's ableist, but like, there's a book called You Mean I'm Not Lazy, Stupid, or Crazy, because that's what we're all labeled as, because we can't sit still. Like, there's nothing wrong with us. Back in the day when we were hunting and gathering, we were out running around. We were the ones running off to do the thing or looking at things in a different way. Dyslexia had its own purpose in the hive and all of those things. And now we're trying to wedge ourselves into something. And so that is a more concerned problem. It's less upsetting when you can't find your spatula in your bed, and more so when you can't find your kids' science homework that you accidentally left in the freezer because you were looking for tomorrow's dinner and and you weren't supposed to pick it up anyway because it's their responsibility. Like, it does really compound in a number of ways when you're responsible for having your own business, having to help kids go through that. So it's looking at all of those things in those different ways, again, starting with realizing that we are not broken. We are struggling to fit into a society, into a system that was not built with us in mind. We still have to function in that. Homegirl still got to turn in notes and bill insurance, otherwise I ain't paying for daycare. So hi, and I do take my medicine. And I also think it does help me to focus better and have more informed conversations in ways that are more meaningful sometimes. But it's figuring that piece out, like the self-talk piece, to start there, to recognize where it's impacting other pieces of our life, and then to be able to go from there. And again, like, get a therapist. I also would really encourage everyone to get yourself a therapist.
Sure. I love that idea of self-talk. The other day I did something, like, it was so dumb, but like, it wasn't even a big deal. But of course I was like, I just spilled my coffee, and then I spilled it again, like literally not 30 seconds later.
Yes.
And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
And my daughter, this is like those moments where you're like, okay, I actually am doing a decent job as a mom. She goes, Mommy, you're a human, and that's okay.
That is so gorgeous.
And so, because it only like smacked me in the face so hard, because I'm like, I literally say her all the time, like, we're human, you're a human, like, you make mistakes, that's okay.
Right.
Like, I
Do
make
you mind
mistakes
me
all the
asking, or
time.
you can just say no and we can skip over it? How old is she?
9.
Oh, that's so gorgeous.
Yeah. So I say that to say, not to like shout myself out, but yes, to shout myself out. But shameless plug. No, but I think self-talk is way more important than we realize, not just for ourselves, but because sometimes that self-talk actually is outward in like a groan, a grunt, a face. And so I think we, not only are we hearing it, other people are hearing it. And then sometimes those little ripples, like, we didn't even know the impact we're having, positive or negative. Because certainly there's things that I say to myself that I'm like, that was really bad. Like, I shouldn't have said I'm dumb, And then I'm like, no, I'm not dumb. That was just a dumb thing I did, Whatever.
Yes, but again, like the difference between guilt and shame of like,
Yeah.
I did a dumb thing. How do I change that to move forward and
Yeah.
not keep spilling my damn coffee? Versus I am dumb. Let me
Totally.
keep tearing myself down.
Yeah.
And that really is a different vantage point and way of looking at it. And that's the other thing too, is like the book, I keep pointing as though you all can see my bookshelf, you can't. But my mom had it in the 90s, and then I have the newer version, because that's how we are all. And I don't want to be like, I don't want to tell you like, don't say squirrel to your friends because it's ableist or whatever, but I do want to hold a little space of like, because we mask, because we figure things out, because we fit in a number of ways, like when our friends make fun of us, they're like, oh, squirrel, Meg, squirrel, and whatever. And it's like, right, but you, like, by me saying I'm so dumb, like, let me make fun of myself before you all can make fun of me, or some friends that feel entitled to say these things and make fun of our distractibility. I'm not saying it's not a good, like, I listen to Amy Poehler's podcast, and according to her, in Boston, that's how you show love, is to pick on each other. I'm from the Midwest, and my skin is not that thick, and I don't know if Amy Poehler, please call me. I'd love to come on your show, and I'd love to be best friends. But I don't know how I would handle that well in a number of things. If that's how you all operate and that makes sense to you, that's fine. But like, let's all take a moment for those of us with ADHD and recognize, like, somebody is calling out an intellectual disability that you have and a struggle that you have to fit into society in a joking way. Something to think about.
Yeah, like it wouldn't be as accepted if someone said something like, I don't know what the.
You don't have to give an example. You don't have to give an example. I think anybody who can think of, y'all use your imaginations and think of an example. But no, it's acceptable because we usually figure it out and we mask and we make things work.
Yeah,
and we're generally fairly high achieving. So it's okay to make fun of us when we spill our coffee 5 times in a row. Squirrel, squirrel. Man, you can't keep your head on straight. And it's like, yeah, that's an ongoing conversation that I have with me and my therapist about my self-talk and how that really stimulates and struggles against my executive functioning.
So what do you think has been what am I trying to ask here? Like, what's been the biggest aha moment on this journey that's like kind of kicked into this place you're at today? Because I think you talk about these things with a lot of like confidence and acceptance, but I don't imagine you've always like just been there with it all. So was there like something that happened along the way that that was kind of like aha, or you could take that power back in this story, or we're not seeing it as pathologizing, but it's a strength, or like what? And maybe it's not just one moment, but like, is there an example of something that you've been through or that occurred that kind of created that pivot?
Absolutely. So I already told the story a bit, but I'm going to give a little more detail. I have one that was my pivot moment in 2021, and then a pivot moment from literally yesterday. So tuck in, everybody. So again, going back to the story about anxiety manifesting, or ADHD manifesting as anxiety when it's unmanaged, I was at Centimano Counseling in Kansas City. Mika Centimano is my mentor, and also we call her the godmother of perinatal mental health in Kansas City. She worked directly under Karen Kleiman, like their buddy, and Karen Kleiman is the person who basically created the idea of postpartum depression, not that it exists, but the definition and working with it. And so I was in that training. I'm literally in the back. I'm pumping because my daughter's still in that space, and I'm there all day. And I had literally the week before asked my PCP, which again, highly encourage everybody. Psychiatry is amazing. Just before I go on my little soapbox real quick. If you have a primary provider who will prescribe for you and you feel confident in being able to know your body well enough, then that's great. Otherwise, I really do encourage everyone to go to a psychiatrist, at least to get the ball rolling. I'm in a space where I feel confident in being able to ask my prescriber, my PCP. So not to be too litigious, but like, it's very important for me to say that. So I had just asked my primary provider like the week before to put me on something, like the anxiety, I was starting to be depression. I wasn't sure, I don't know. And I'm sitting there, and they go to we're learning about perinatal mental health, right? Here all these beautiful things, so helpful, and all these wonderful examples. And the slide pops up that says, and I've never heard this expression before, unmanaged ADHD manifests as anxiety. And when I tell you, like a scene from a movie, I'm sitting there, those of you watching YouTube, or if you're listening to it, you can't see me, hands, elbows on table, head in hands, jaw metaphorically on floor. What? To the point that Mika's up talking, and her co-presenter from the front. I'm in the back because, as much as breastfeeding, free the nip, all of that, I still sat in the back for not to be too distracting. She's like, Meg, you okay? I didn't even realize. I literally was just like, that's it. I've been trying to get pregnant, breastfeeding, trying to get pregnant, still literally have pumps on my nipples in this moment. I have not been medicated for my ADHD. And I have to admit, like during quarantine and everything, I wasn't even seeing a therapist. We had just moved from Kansas. It was a whole thing. And I guess in some way in my life, I had kind of thought I had ADHD licked. Ha 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 ha. And in that moment, that was my aha moment of like, yeah, I can't get on ADHD medication right now because I'm still breastfeeding my daughter, but this is where I need to go. This is the thing. I need to get back into the work that I do with my ADHD. I don't have it licked. I don't have it figured out. Life is different with 2 kids in a city where you don't know anybody, Meg. And also, eventually, I would like to because for me, medication works very well. That was my like, oh my gosh, yes, moment. That was the one that really like was my new pivot point. Obviously, back in '94 when I first got on Ritalin, being one as well. Bless my parents for being brave enough to medicate a little girl in the '90s. And then yesterday, I was in session with this most spectacular client of mine, and we're talking about like she's got late in life diagnosed ADHD. And bless, I'm not going to give any identifying information or too much more about her, but I was just talking like one of her goals was that she'd really like, I was like, tell me about reading. And she was like, oh, I want to. Do I make time to? Absolutely not. And so I'm like, cool, let's talk about like, let's talk, just to keep the story going. Let's talk about like, okay, 3 times a week, 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, 5-minute rule, da 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 da. And I'm sitting here as I'm talking to her, I'm like, you motherfucking hypocrite. You don't do this. You don't like you, not that 5 minutes of reading is my goal, but like the things that are mine is physical therapy for my back because I've got some stressors. I'm like, you are not going to do anything that you are talking to her about right now. So we have a good rapport where I can say this to her and she's going to be listening to this and getting the best chuckle out of it. And I was like, I got to stop myself because I'm being a hypocrite. Let's talk about like bringing this back in a way like it's not just like, oh, I'm going to put it on my calendar and activity plan, which activity planning is great. I was like, how do we pull ourselves out of, how do we step out of the overwhelm swirl that has us when we are in for the day, kids are down, you know, her kids don't live with her, but like that we're just crashing on the couch into Netflix. Like how do we step out? I have clients who talk about like the weeks just fly by and all of these things. And so literally yesterday we were talking, I was like, I'm trying to be really tediously aware of taking some time and recognizing like right now at X time, I am in this conversation with 2 really fabulous humans. And I'm going to, and at this time I'm putting on my shoes. And at this time it is 5:15 and I'm putting my keys on a hook. Like, how am I planting myself in the moment? Because what I'm doing right now is not working for me. I still feel chaotic and twirly. I still feel overwhelmed. I still feel like, and then we have to do the homework, but we've got the baseball. We've got to get to McDonald's, and I don't want to eat at McDonald's, but I don't have any other choice because my husband's in Austin, and blah, 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 blah. Like, how do I do these things that are going to really bring me to these exact moments? And I did that yesterday, and like, holy goodness, it actually worked. Like, I found a way of like, I did these. I didn't do every one of the PT exercises, but that's not the goal. And I did like 10 of them because I found a way to be like, I'm okay. And then when I sunk into my Netflix show later in the evening, I was able to be in a space of like, I don't have anything else I need to be doing. This rest is productive. And it was really interesting because 3 of my sessions today were this conversation. Like, again, like somebody was talking about the chaotic and twirly of it all. And I was like, may I offer a suggestion? And so that literally was yesterday afternoon where I'm in the middle of a therapy session trying to encourage somebody to make this change, knowing I'm not going to do that for myself, so how am I going to expect somebody else to do it? And having this moment of like, aha, really small, intentional, mindful moments, moving meditation. My keys are on the hook. My shoes are in the garage. Everything is fine. What is this moment right now? Can I make any changes? If I can't make any changes, this is just for right now. Don't catastrophize. Where am I right now? And that's been really helpful for me in the 24 hours it's been since I had this conversation. But literally, I've had this conversation for like 3 hours in the last day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good advice, I think. And I think the fact that 2 things that I got from what you just said. Number one is that we should always be, like, we've never we've never like conquered our thing, right? So like this idea of like, you had this pivot moment many years ago, and then you have another one today, and maybe next week or in 2 years you'll have another one, right? Like I think that idea of continually growing and being fluid in lots of different things is really important. But also the fact that you've had this conversation so many times in the last 24 hours, I think helps normalize that a lot of us have these feelings and a lot of us experience this. And I think in some warped way, maybe it's like the misery loves company thing, maybe it's just like you don't feel alone. There is some comfort in knowing that other people are sort of in the same storm. We might be in a different boat, we might have different equipment, but we're all sort of weathering something.
I think the opposite of Schadenfreude of like, I delight in seeing you suffer as well, like the misery loves company of it all, of like the normalization.
Yeah.
Like I'm not an anomaly. This isn't something that's wrong with specifically me. It's not a me problem. Literally, you all, 3 of my clients in the last 24 hours we've talked about this thing.
Yeah.
And I hold space of like, as a therapist, we the therapy community to talk about like patterns and whatever. And obviously we're the linchpin in that. We're the same person. So like when you hear something, maybe you shoehorn that same conversation into it with somebody. So I hold some space for that. But like, these are 3 different human beings in 3 different states and 3 different situations in life who were all talking about different, and we came to the same thing of like, okay,
Right.
how are we going to get ourselves out of the overwhelmed swirl?
Right.
And be in this moment, and that way the day doesn't feel like it got away from me, so that I don't have any option but to collapse into Netflix at the end of the day, or the weeks haven't flown by, or whatever, because I know exactly what I did today at 2:30 p.m. because I checked in with myself. And I know exactly how many carrots I ate, so I can tell my dietitian next week. Because instead of just randomly wandering through the pantry and grabbing something, I sat for a second and thought, what do I want to do with intention?
Yeah.
Not in the overwhelm swirl, right now, in this very moment.
Yeah. And I think too, like you said, seeing that on a screen gave it text context, and then also made you feel validated in its own right, because it wasn't like a magical statement that didn't exist in the world or that other people don't know about, right? Like it came from somewhere. But I think that also helped to, it's another version of validation. You just had like the right context for it.
Yeah. I mean, it was a really powerful moment for me, where I said to everybody, I said I just asked, because of course I'm sitting here with my face agape, like that painting, that expressionist painting or whatever from back in the day, and I don't want to say I was called out, but what's going on, Meg? And I could have easily been like, oh, I'm good, sorry, I got distracted or whatever. But I said, I'm like, this is a space full of mental health professionals.
Yeah.
And I said, I was really open and honest. Like, I literally just asked for some sort of medication because this was not tenable for me. And I think this is the thing. And of course, too, like I have depressive symptoms, I have anxious symptoms. It's not a magic pill that magically cures everything. But it was a great jumping off point for me to be like, oh, let's get back into the work that we're doing. And let's get back into.
Yeah, no, that's so true. We lost Melissa for a minute. Her internet shut down. She'll be back, hopefully. No, but I think these are just like great stories to share because they're so relatable. I'm sure on some level they're not like so specific and unique that like it would be awesome to hear, but like someone's like, okay, that has nothing to do with me.
Doesn't really apply to me, but that's for you.
Or it's not, like here's like the only way and here's what it all has to mean, right? That just that you, even though this has been your journey for so many years, like learning how to live with a brain that works just perfectly fine, but like not always perfectly fine in the world that we were born into, right? Like according to them. But to like adapt and to figure out how to do that, I think everyone will be able to take pieces. Like I don't personally at all identify as ADHD. Like I can focus and stay on task and things like that, but like
what's
some
that
of
like?
I'm just like so perfect. That's why. No, but some of the things like,
thank you very much.
the like lower, like starting something and being really obsessed with it and then getting over it, more quickly. I like, as chaotic as my brain is, I think I still keep it very organized.
I'm totally picturing what you're saying.
You know, like
there's a lot going on, but
I'm quick.
everything kind of has a shelf.
Right. And I can like listen to a conversation while read something. Like I can do a lot at once and I like it, but I like get stuff done. I don't make a lot of mistakes. I don't lose track. I finish projects. Like, you know, so like wherever that like line of you have this diagnosis and you don't is, but I can empathize with certain aspects of the technical diagnosis or what people say. Like I don't, some parts you lose me on where I'm like, that doesn't happen to me, but the other parts of just like interest and presence, and I think as women we hold a lot and it feels busy, and you know, like I can relate on that. And so even just some of the stuff you're saying, like just being mindful and present in each moment is something to be learned or taken, even if you don't have like an ADHD diagnosis, right? Or we were talking earlier, I was talking to someone about, I had PMDD for a little bit, and PMS heightened, like I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know like what was wrong. And I felt crazy. And then when I had the language and the right tools and the right track of treatment, it made me feel like it made more sense. It worked out. So, you know, I think it's like you could insert anything, and your story is with ADHD and those elements of anxiety, but anytime we have the language and the context for how we're feeling that feels abnormal, because some stuff is abnormal, it doesn't mean it's bad, it just is, then it helps us to normalize it or to figure out a plan to work with it instead of feeling at odds.
But I love the intention of what you just said of like, there's nothing wrong. Like that, we love to label and judge things. Like, I have depression and that's bad. It's like, no, I just have depression and let's figure out what we want to do because that's not where we want to stay. And if we can stop labeling things as bad or good, ADHD is not bad or good, it is, and we do the things that we need to do to wedge ourselves into neurotypical society, and we celebrate the things like our hyper-focus moments where we can pound out a 10-page research paper in X amount of time because we were really into it, and that's a great thing that some of us are able to do, and each one of those pieces. But it's about avoiding that labeling of whether it's good or bad and judging ourselves and beating ourselves up, recognizing what are the things that we're having, whether or not you have an ADHD diagnosis or one of the things that I'm mentioning here rings to you that is a stumbling block of some sort for you. Like, let's talk and focus on that. Let's figure out how we deal with that, whether or not you have the diagnosis. And again, not in a judgmental way of just like, what am I going to do with that moving forward? I think it's so relatable. Like, anybody can say at some point in their life they felt distracted, right? Like, so in some sort of way, in getting this together in a way that makes sense for everybody. And then, I do encourage other people too, of like recognizing and avoiding judgment of other people or of other people's children. And like, my 6-year-old has ADHD. He is doing the best he can. He is in play therapy. We are in talks with everybody. He's got a 504 and so on and so forth. And he also sometimes is climbing the walls at school. Like,
We're all just doing the best we can out here, right?
Well, I listened to Brene Brown's episode a couple of years ago where she did a longitudinal study on that. Like, are people literally doing the best they can? And her study basically did find that to be true. Like, whether or not not you, Alicia, y'all believe it about other people, we are all out here trying to do the best we can.
Yeah. I think it's like harder work to intentionally not than to live within whatever level of ignorance or trauma cycle or whatever one had. Now, again, there's like bigger conversations on what all that means, but I think it is easier to just be who we are than to try so hard to like not know what we know or do what we do, you know?
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely, yes.
Well, as we kind of wind down here, what might be one last thought or word of wisdom you'd want to leave folks with? Not that you haven't given us a lot already, but
of course.
Closing
statement. I do encourage everyone, and I sit in a place of privilege when I say it, and everything's expensive and insurance isn't great, but I do really encourage everyone, whether or not you've never been distracted in your entire life, which literally please DM me because I want to have a conversation with you. If you've never been, like, whatever your thing is, if you're feeling really good, like even my sister-in-law, she's like, I'm feeling pretty good right now, but I still keep a monthly check-in. Just, it's important to go talk to somebody, to have a safe space where you can be vulnerable, where you can put something out there and have somebody who doesn't have stake and buy-in and be like, oh, have you thought about this? Or what, oh, did they maybe mean that? Or what do you think about this? It's so helpful and important to be very intentional about, like, not in a carte blanche bowl in an antique shop through other people's life kind of way, avoiding judgment, like reflect. Can I do something better or different that's more suited to my core values? Yes. But then recognizing, like, I'm not broken. There's not a problem. How can I make things different but not beat myself up about it? I spilled coffee, not I am a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Kind of energy, I think is very helpful. And then again, just whether or not you think you meet criteria for a diagnosis, it does not matter. If you're feeling chaotic and twirly, please go talk to somebody and let them know you're feeling chaotic and twirly, and we will happily help you navigate that.
Yes, I love that. And where can people maybe find you, or if they have more questions? I know you do a lot of work around, like, with folks living with ADHD. So where can they find you?
Well, luckily I'm licensed in 10 states. So if you live in one, I get a 1 in 5 chance of being able to work with me. I do also do some coaching, so that's, worldwide. But yeah, everyone can find me on megdukelcsw.com. I'm also Amplify Wellness with Meg on Instagram, and I would literally, I am an extrovert, so I love to chat with people about anything, but especially these topics that I'm so passionate about. So I'd love to hear from your audience.
Awesome. And we'll definitely have your links. Sorry if you can hear the thunder. We're having a storm here right now.
I can literally hear that, and I was like, that's not coming from, what is that? Oh, wow. You are getting your garden watered.
Florida. I'll have all your links in both the newsletter and the YouTube notes. But thank you so much for being here. Melissa also says thank you. Her internet in Chicago also just shut down, so I think it's just weather everywhere.
Weather patterns.
But we appreciate you being here. It was such a delight, and I hope everybody has a great rest of their day. See you later.
Yes.
Stopping.